and I do believe that cars have souls.
Welcome back to the channel. This is Lance and this is Speed and Chrome Illustrated. Normally I talk about cars, but in this episode I get to talk about family too. This is a 1966 Shelby GT350, the real deal. And the guy in the photo is my father-in-law, John Melling. John purchased this car in 1968 and was the third owner. The first owner had purchased it in Arizona and put approximately 70,000 miles on it in 2 years, eventually trading it in on a motorhome. The RV dealer had it hidden under a tarp. It seems his daughter wanted the car and he was trying to sell it before she found out. He thought the car was too dangerous for her. The Shelby was all original with its 306 horsepower, 289 cubic inch engine, 4-speed on the floor, and a 3.89 gear ratio with posi in the rear. John really liked the performance of the 289. He had previously had a 409 and a 58 Chevy, which made power up to 5,000 RPM. This 289 would get its second wind at 5,000 RPM and rapidly wind up to 7,200. John said the only issue he had with the car was the droning of the exhaust at 70 miles an hour and 4,000 RPM. When on long trips, this was a little much to deal with. Not wanting to change the gears in the rear and compromise performance, 5- and 6-speed transmissions weren't available at the time. This was 1970. What was available was a Hono drive. What's a Hono drive? I'm glad you asked. The Hono drive was a self-contained, fully lubricated 2-speed synchromesh, planetary, 30% reduction overdrive transmission. John picked up the Model 200 and got it installed. The 2-speed shifter was mounted next to the 4-speed shifter. John said it worked out perfectly for 6 close ratio gear selections. You could shift from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 in the Hono drive in direct 1-to-1 ratio. Then double shift, downshift from 4 to 3 while shifting the Hono drive into overdrive, then shift from 3 overdrive to 4 overdrive, making it a 6-speed close ratio transmission. Hot Rod Magazine tested a Shelby GT350 with the 306 horsepower 289 with the same 389-to-1 gear ratio to 131 miles per hour. With the 30% overdrive that the Hono drive provided, it would have brought the top speed up to 170 miles per hour. If it had enough horsepower, that probably would have required adding the optional Paxton supercharger kit that a few of the 1966 GT350s received. John sold the Shelby in the early 70s when he was transferred back east for his job. He said he should have listened to his dad, who told him to store it in his shop while he was gone. When he got back to California a few years later, the prices had risen to 500% over what he had sold it for, and in recent years has risen to 7,500%. Fast forward to 1994, John had been looking for another 65-66 Mustang Fastback. He found this one in Sacramento. It had many of the same features that his original Shelby did, plus some upgrades, and it was a project car. The 65 already had a rebuilt 289, had GT40 racing heads, Edelbrock cam, roller rockers, Edelbrock high-rise intake, Edelbrock carb, Petronics conversion, tri-way headers, 10.5-to-1 compression ratio. It also had the Shelby shock tower brace. The transmission is a T5 5-speed, and its first gear is 3.95, and it has the .63 overdrive. The clutch is a center force and has a blow-proof bell housing. Out back in the 9-inch, it's running a 3.0-to-1 gear ratio. The car's running power disc brakes in the front and power drum brakes in the rear. The hood is also fiberglass, which was my first time working on anything fiberglass. The bucket seats are out of a newer Volkswagen. When I say newer, I mean like late 80s. The gauge panel is out of a 66 Shelby, and it has the double gauge pod on the dash with tack and vacuum gauge. It also has the Shelby racing seat belts. Between 1994 and 2006, John really dialed in all the mechanicals on the car, but it was still in primer and needed body and paint. The only work to the body and paint to that point was a fresh coat of primer I had put on it in 1999. In 2006, I had the time and the place to get the body and paint completed on the car. This was my first time spraying stripes, so that was a learning experience. The Mustangs have a very specific stripe style, and while it looks like the stripes are all the same from the front to the back, the measurements vary on every panel. After a lot of measuring, those were completed in black. The yellow paint on the car is called Screaming Yellow, and I believe it was a 2006 Mustang color. The paint's a base coat, clear coat. Once the paint was completed, we set to get all the trim pieces back into place, the drip rails being the most challenging. A fresh coat of black under the hood on the inner fenders really set off the engine compartment as well. John has helped me work on many of my cars over the last 27 plus years, teaching me much of what I know today. The times we've spent together working on my old junk is extremely special to me. Not only did I get the pleasure of marrying his oldest daughter, I also gained an amazing set of parents. John still has his 65 Mustang, and it looks as good today as it did the day we completed it back in 2006. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing. Take care. Drive fast.